All righty. So, good morning, everybody. Great to see everyone here again. Last week, we held an amazing conversation around trading under pressure. And one of the things that really stood out was how often, or how even with really great plans, things like life pressure, noise, emotions, all that stuff can sneak up on us. But here's the thing, even when that happens, and it will happen, it's what we do after the trade that often determines how fast we grow. That, and I see the person hopping on. But that's what today is about. How do we review trades in a way that actually builds edge, that helps us to build a bridge, not just logging outcomes? Before we dive into everything, quick show of hands, or you could type into the chat if you don't have your camera on. How many of you are doing any kind of a trade review right now? Who's doing any kind of a trade review right now? Sal, I see your hand up. That's good. Wesley is not. That's okay. We'll work on that. Now, Lee.
I have yet to get going on it.
Okay. This will be a great session for you guys. Because honestly, no matter where you are with this, today, the aim is to walk away with a simple tool that can help you sharpen your edge over time. So let's talk first about why most reviews don't actually move the needle. Here's why. A lot of traders journal or review, but it often looks like this, right? So you got your pen out, and or you got your spreadsheet or whatever device, and you're looking at your trade, and it's like a bad trade, right? And that's the note, or stopped out early, or market choppy, something like that. Those things are honest, but they don't drive growth. The mindset shift I want to give you today is fairly simple. Your trade review is not just for documenting the past. It's for designing your future edge. And looks like more people are popping in. All righty. So, all right. Good morning, Pat. Just things. Don't worry, you didn't miss much. So, talking about trade reviews, and what we're trying to do is to design the type of trade review that's not just going to be a log, but something that can help us to design our future. So, well, earlier, just a second ago, I mentioned the type of reviews that many of us do, is looking at a trade, saying that, oh, this is a bad trade, stopped out of this one early, market was choppy, stuff like that. How many of you caught yourself writing reviews that sound more like something that's venting versus something that's learning? How many of you have done that? I know that I have. Yep, Pat, see your hand. Wesley's raised his hand. Very good. Would anyone care to share an example? No pressure, but if anybody would like to share an example, please jump right in. Feel free to unmute yourself.
I think I know in my case, sometimes I allow the result to determine the trade, was a good one or a bad one, rather than saying it was a good setup. It just didn't work out. So I tend to be a little bit more results focused, to my detriment. But that's why I'm here. So.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that, Wesley. Yeah, this what we've got planned for today. This will help. This will give a new perspective. So So awesome. Thank you. Anybody else?
I could probably jump in a little bit here, Mike. For starters,
Yeah.
I apologize. I gotta jump out early, about 8:45 my time.
That's okay.
Tons of things doing today, graduation ceremonies and so forth. But I yeah, with this thought in mind of journaling a little bit more. I've been trying to get more and more involved with journaling, and I do have a couple of trades where I felt like I was kind of beating myself up versus just analyzing what I did, and that difference. That's the big difference I'm trying to do. In fact, I kind of look at it from the standpoint. I think we've talked about this one-on-one a little bit. Is when I was doing an evaluation yesterday. I'm always doing analogies to my job and flying and so forth. But I had a student yesterday that was fantastic. Two pilots that were just unbelievable. I'm to the point where you would. That's the very level, the highest level of a standard that you could ask for, and that was we were able to make comments at the end of the session to reflect that. And on the other side of that coin, when students aren't prepared or if they don't do as well, there's a number of reasons why. And rather than berate or get down on someone, you just can point to various areas on where they're deficient and send them away with some homework, so to speak, and on how to improve. So it kind of falls. I took that mindset and now I'm applying it to what we're doing here rather than getting down on myself.
That's excellent. That's the exact kind of mindset that you want to have. And I thank you, Pat, for sharing that. And so as we walk through this, you'll see how everybody, what Pat just reflected there, will fit into how we'll do our own post-trade reflection checklist. I think that so much of that can apply. So first, when we're doing our post-analysis, I think that it's a great idea to begin with mindset. And I think that so many of us tend to either ignore this or perhaps forget it. But it's really our inner state that can drive poor decisions. So questions we can ask ourselves when we're doing this type of post-analysis and just starting to go through it like trade by trade. One question to ask: what was I feeling before the trade? What was I feeling before the trade? A good way to do this part of the exercise, just to even get ourselves back into that flow state. If you take some people take screenshots of their trades before they take it. You could go and see what that trade was, what it looked like at the very beginning. If you have that, wonderful. If not, something else that you could do. Pretty much every platform lets you have like a backdate feature where you could go and replay the chart day by day. So I would even suggest perhaps doing that on a trade that you're starting to review. So that way you don't see the result. You can see what it looked like in the beginning and start to get yourself back into that state of free trade and say, well, what was I feeling before I took this trade? And at this point, you're not judging anything. We're not looking to judge anything. We're just trying to get it all out, right? So what was I feeling before the trade? What thoughts were running during the trade? So as we start to advance that trade bar by bar, or if you have screenshots that you're working off of, looking at those and trying to think through, what was I thinking as this trade was running? And simply writing those elements out too. Maybe the trade had a bad day. Maybe it had a great day. Maybe it shot up significantly. What sorts of thoughts were we having as the trades were having those kinds of actions, whether it's trade related, whether it's general market related. Maybe we had other trades on that we remember, and we could start to be like, oh, well, this one shot up, but the other ones did something else. We might remember that this point of the day I was actually pretty distracted. I had a doctor's appointment or other things going on. Write out all those kinds of things. How did I feel about the trade now? Right. Well, when we get to the end of it, now the trade's done. How do I feel about this trade now? Good, bad, otherwise. What was I distracted during this trade? Did I follow my rules? Did I follow my process? How do I feel overall about this trade now? Right. So 3 main points so far. What was I feeling before the trade? What thoughts were running during the trade? How do I feel about that trade now? And here's a 4th one. Was my self-talk supportive or negative? Was my self-talk supportive or negative? Now that you had the first 3, you could start to tease out a little bit in that 4th question there. Was my self-talk supportive or negative? So now I ask everybody that's here, let's think about our last trade, whatever the last trade was. How aware were you of your mindset going into that trade? Anyone want to share an example, or even if it's just a word, what you during the last? Yeah, go ahead.
If I'd love to, unless someone I mean to
Sure.
step on anybody's spot, but with this in mind, I actually just this morning prior to this, I sat down and I used your template that we discussed, the trade preview checklist. And I was curious if I could. I've got 2 examples. I don't know if you'd be okay with me sharing that or not, but if there's a way.
Let's pick one. Start with one, and we'll do that.
All right. Well, this one, I gave myself an F in this trade.
Okay.
So, and probably it's it should be clear. I mean, rather than it being like squishy and iffy, this is in my mind it's pretty obvious, and yet it's not one that I'm berating myself. I'm just looking at real hard. It's like, hey, you know what, this was there's a number of reasons as to why, and we can just talk if you want.
Okay.
But I mean, I wrote out answers on the template and so forth. If you want me to share what you want, just read a little bit.
Well, I actually think that it might be getting into the next part of the questions that we would want to ask ourselves on the trade, and that's going to be trade quality. Sure. Right. So you're already ahead of the game. Maybe it fits more into this next section. But before you took that trade where you graded yourself an F, what would you say that you were feeling before the trade, or what thoughts did you have during the trade? Do you have any of those notes, Pat?
No, I had reasonable conviction. Well, I'll just tell you, it's Spotify. And it was the trade that you have, and I think you're still in it. Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't well prepared. I guess that's the word I would say. Is not well prepared for that trade. I knew about it, and I talked about it and looked at it. And I knew I charted the VCP action on it and found a pivot point and so forth. And for some reason, I didn't have a plan in place prior to market open. And when it moved. I watched it move, and I felt like I was a deer in the headlights for a second. And I didn't do anything.
Now, those all, and thank you for sharing all that. That's great insights, very honest. Are those all things that for the questions that we spoke about earlier in relation to mindset, well, are those answers to the question of how do I feel about it now, or did you have any of those feelings before you placed the trade? And if not, well, what I'm curious to hear, what were your feelings before you placed the trade?
I'm not sure.
I think that's and I think that's one of the big unlocks that we could have for ourselves, because like that, you know, they say that hindsight is 20/20. That there's so much truth in that, and it's where we could berate ourselves sometimes, and or even if we can start to have those negative things, or things that say that, why do I keep on doing X, Y, or Z? It's so clear now. When we could start to go back in time and start to feel like, how were we feeling before I placed this trade? Then we could start to spot some of the patterns that emerge. Maybe it's like, well, I'm following Mike. He kind of knows what he's doing. Let me put this trade on. Then as the trade starts to develop, well, what kinds of thoughts or feelings were I having during the trade? Oh, this is getting into a little bit of trouble. Does this really fit? And I don't mean to put words into your mouth, but these are just general things that people tend to have. So did this really fit my plan? Do I have like some sort of I don't know, a fallback if this doesn't work out? Maybe I took this trade, but I have a few other trades on. Maybe my exposure is a little bit too high. I don't really like how this is working. Oh, look at the market. The market's starting to pull back. Other trades are, you know what? Let's just call it a day. And we could very easily start to talk ourselves out of the trade. And then when we think about how do I feel now, that's a pretty like of the questions that might be one of the easier ones to answer, because we're answering it in the present versus trying to think back to the parts of, well, what did I feel when because at some point we did feel good about the trade, otherwise we wouldn't have put it on. Whether those were thoughts of that, or maybe feeling like we don't really feel greed in the moment. It's more of something where we reflect back and be like, oh yeah, but I was bad. That's a form of greed or a form of fearfulness. But something like where it's like, oh, like I feel under invested right now. I need to put something on, or the market's moving and I don't want to be left behind, right? Things like that. I hear the bell going off. Wesley.
Yeah, I think
Wesley, go
you
ahead.
answered it kind of just a minute ago with some of your examples, but I was, thinking that before I enter a trade, sometimes I don't know that I'm really conscious of what I am feeling or not. And so I was looking for, if you could just elaborate a little bit more, what is a feeling versus a thought versus, and I think you elaborate on it a little bit by saying like, oh, I've got to make this trade, or it's FOMO, or whatever the case may be. Is it stuff kind of like that? Because I think you jumped ahead a little bit, appropriately so, that sometimes we go back after the fact and reassess what our feeling was at the time. Like, oh, I was stupid or whatever. So I was just kind of looking for what types of things are typically effective in looking for a feeling.
Well, I think that it's the chatter that we have, right? So, do you have? Well, why don't we do this exercise? Is there a trade that you had recently that you might want to walk through this together?
Probably not off the top of my head. What I tend to do, since I work during the day, is I'll set my trades up the night before, and then with a stop limit order. and they typically either hit or they don't. And so sometimes I'm not even there. So I think maybe that's why I'm asking the question. I don't have a
Mhm.
specific trade in mind, but it's a little bit more my style. So it may trigger during the day and I get a notification it hit, but oh, okay, then I'll go back to doing what I'm doing.
Mhm. Mhm. So as far in this context, thoughts, feeling, emotional, like it's all parts of the same coin. Just trying to think through what were we what was going through our head when we before we placed this trade,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So, but and it'll be a little bit different for each person. Uh, some people, some of us are very systematic, very logical. This trade placing this trade in XYZ because it fit this pattern and this is my setup. Trade is triggering, therefore place it right. And it's almost like you could program it into a code.
Right.
Other people might take a broader look. Other people might take a look at right or something that's a little bit more process involved. So some of us might be looking at a bunch of several things, right? And perhaps it's I'm in this group. I see a few people posting trades. Looks pretty good. They seem to know what they're talking about.
Right.
And so I'm taking this kind of trade. Well, whatever happens to be going through our minds at that time, that's the key
Okay.
or part of the keys that we want to be jotting down.
So it sounds like part of it is just kind of there is no right or wrong answer. Just jot down the best you can and
Yeah.
probably refine it over time. And okay, great. Thanks so much, Mike.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It definitely gets refined over time. And by the way, each of the examples I've thrown out, they're all personal examples from different stages. So there really is no wrong answer to that question. We're just trying to spot patterns in our thinking at throughout each stage of the trade, and it's by doing that, that's how we'll be able to start to tease out what some of these thoughts and feelings are, and how we'll be able to improve. And that starts to bring us to the second part of this. When we move into execution, right? The execution part, we're looking to answer a couple of different questions, right? Did this trade fit my plan? That's number one. Did this trade fit my plan, or was it impulsive? Right? And again, we're just we're not making judgments yet. We're not that part comes later. We're just getting everything out. It's almost like everybody here. You're all veterans of this program that are here live. But you've all heard me mention the market mood, or the three lenses of market readiness, as I'm now starting to refer to it, with general market and system and personal performance. And but the bigger idea is to get everything out on the table first and then come to some sort of an assessment, some sort of a judgment. It's very similar here, where we're just getting it all out and then we make our assessment. So again, questions to answer. Number one, did this fit my trade plan, or was it impulsive? Did it fit my setup rules? Did I size it correctly? Number three, did I size this thing correctly? Number four, did I follow my exit plan? Or was this more of a reactive exit? And no judgment at this point, right? It's not that one is good, well, one is bad. It's just we're trying to get it out. And number five, and this is a very good question to ask ourselves: would I take the same trade again? Would I take the same trade again? All right. So, how many? Quick poll here. How many of you have had trades recently where you would not take the same trade again if we're being completely honest? Show of hands, you could click the button, hand raise. Yep. See, Pat raised his hand. Yeah, there's well, what's one thing that tends to trigger off-plan trades for you? Is it market noise, FOMO, stress? If anybody would like to share something that would tends to trigger these off-plan trades, please go ahead.
I would say for me, it would probably be a little bit of FOMO. Sometimes it's boredom.
Okay.
A little bit like, well, that might work, and even though it may not be according to my plan. So sometimes I think boredom or just having something to do does it. I mean, typically I do that more on the paper trade side than with actual money, but still, it is a pattern for me.
And when does boredom tend to show up?
Wow, that's a good question, Mike. I don't know that I know an answer off the top of my head. I would say every day. But I think during maybe market times where it's in transition or a little bit still, for example, here in the last few days, the market was going up fairly well. Now we've kind of stalled with the strikes in the Middle East. And then, all of a sudden gold and oil are shooting up and stocks are taking a hit. And then so kind of sometimes with that transition, I find it a little bit boring and all. I would say that would be my answer, but I'll have to think a little bit more on it. That's a good food for thought.
Yeah, good. Good. Glad to hear it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else care to share anything? Oh, what one thing tends to trigger off-plan trades? Is the question.
I think for me, maybe if I can jump in, is that you're busy going to and from work, or I'm at work, or if there's an alerting service that you're involved with, that something goes off, and you take a couple of minutes and you can look at a name and want to be part of that. So maybe that's along the same lines as what Wesley was saying, is that maybe it's FOMO a little bit, but I'm learning that the best way to combat that is just to have a sound trading plan in place, which I have made progress with, and I've shared some of that with you recently, which is if a trade is not on my plan, I'm not trading it. But that is something that I feel is recently, I'd probably give myself a pat on the back. That's my most recent improvement, but I do reflect on that I would often do that. Or there's an alert goes off and you want to try and jump into something and without properly vetting it, so to speak.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for sharing that, Pat. And that kind of gets into this third part of this, and that's the reflection part. And this is really where the gold is, right? So we did our mindset check, we did our trade quality check, and now it's time for the reflection part of the exercise. And so this is where we start to ask ourselves questions like, did I break any of my trading rules? And if so, why? Right? This is where we start to tease out those kinds of things. Because now that we know what our mindset was, we know what the trade quality was, now we're in a better position to start to reflect on those things. Was it a breakdown in the process? Was it something that was mindset related, hope, fear, greed, noise? What broke my trading rules or guidelines? Or did I break any rules or guidelines, right? Because if sometimes where we might have followed everything to the T, right? And so then the question is very simple: did I break any rules or guidelines? No, right? And it's as simple as that. Another great reflection question. What's one key thing that I learned from this trade? Now, that's a great question to ask no matter what the trade is. There's always something to learn, whether the trade is our biggest winner of the year, biggest loser of the year, or somewhere in between, your typical average trade. What's one key thing that I've learned from this? And finally, this is another great question to ask. What's one small improvement that I can make on my next trade? So let's go through this exercise again. Well, with your last trade that you had, well, whatever your last trade was, what's one small improvement you could bring to your next trade? Yeah, pop into the chat if you can. I think a couple of us are on mute. So if you want to pop into the chat, that's totally okay. Or if you'd like to unmute yourself, that's great as well.
I would say
Comments-
for me first, go ahead, Patrick.
No, Wesley, I'll follow you. I'm sorry.
I was going to say for me, it's a consistent exit strategy. Is something that needs to be developed. Again, kind of here recently where the market flip-flopped, I was in a lot of profitable positions, and I wonder if I should have gotten out before it flip-flopped. I kind of let myself get stopped out. So is that an area that to work on, or is that just the way? I think sometimes, and part of the reason why I'm here is, is what I'm trying to ask in a broader sense, is what I'm experiencing normal, or am I just way off base? And sometimes it's just difficult to do that on your own. Is these are my experiences to be expected during the learning curve? But I would say an exit strategy is one thing that I would put on. So go ahead, Patrick.
But if I could jump in before
sure.
Pat goes, a couple of points there that I think are real important to mention. First off, is it normal to go through periods like what you're experiencing? Yes, absolutely. Is it the follow-on question that you asked in relation to it being for the group, and this is where the things could get it could get challenging to make this kind of discernment, and even within a group of people that are trading fairly similarly, right? Because the answer is similarly. Sometimes, even when trading in a group that's similar, you could end up with different results. And so the judgment of what's normal versus abnormal needs to be done based off of our process overall. So that's where I think that the understanding our system is important. And if your system is similar to someone else's, for example, like Mark has been a mentor of mine, and so my style is somewhat similar to his. And I've heard other people tell me that by how he views the market and how I view the market tend to be somewhat similar. And it's something that I've experienced through the years too. So I'm able to see that, okay, am I way out in left field, or is it somewhat close? And that's where I think that the group dynamic can be helpful. Where it might not be is if you're trading not quite as similar as somebody else. For example, I tend to swing trade, right? And so that's more aligned with the Mark style. Somebody that is more of a position trader, like say like a Jim Ropel type. His performance might be dramatically different than mine at one point,
Sure.
and mine might be dramatically different than his at one point, but it's different styles. Just like with my co-host Dennis Wilborn from the podcast that we do on Mondays, Trading Truths. His style is very different than mine. So he might be up 50% on a trade, like he mentioned 2 weeks ago, but his system is at a different point right now than what mine is. And so if I start judging myself based off of somebody else's performance like that, then that's where we could start to go off the rails a little bit and start to think, well, am I doing something wrong? And it might not be that. Well, two things. One, we might not be doing something wrong. And the way to judge whether or not we're doing something wrong isn't by what somebody else is doing, but by having our trading plan, our trading business plan. And that's why I encourage everybody to write this stuff out, because then it gives us a very concrete way to say, am I on process or am I off process? And we could go through it and say that fairly easily. But then there's the other part where, looking at somebody else and thinking, well, am I doing something wrong based off of what somebody else is doing? And then we might abandon our process to go follow something else that's kind of at the top of its wave and just before it's ready to go through its own cycle, right? Because every system has these waves where they're doing well, then they top, then they pull back in, and it's this ongoing wave. Well, we need to learn how to ride our own waves, and so that's where I think that we need to have our focus. Well, we need to have our focus first on clarity on our system, doing post-trade analysis like how we are discussing here, and then take a look at what we're doing trade by trade and how does it fit versus our plan. And then when we have somebody or a group that are trading very similarly, then that's where it can be very helpful to start to bounce ideas off of somebody else and be like, hey, what do you guys think? Because if we're comparing ourselves to people that are not like us, then it makes it it's like comparing apples and oranges.
No, I completely agree. And I've even seen it where some people may all have the same mentor and all of them trade slightly differently based on how they choose to use the tools and that people use. So no, that's very helpful. So thank you for that. Definitely some food for thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would encourage everybody and well, we've had some great chats in the Discord group. It's good to ask if people don't say it, or if we're trying to make a discernment of, wow, this person in the group just posted this amazing trade and they're up X amount and maybe I'm not. To say, well, what's your style? Like, how are you doing this? Because then you could start to understand from their perspective. And then you could have a better sense of, well, is it my system or is it not?
Very, very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome. Pat.
Okay, I think the question.
If you still have time, I know that you're getting close to the time that you said that you needed to hop off.
Sure. Yeah, I was just going to comment that I think you asked about what's the one thing you can do to improve on the next trade. It kind of follows like what Wesley was just saying when he was mentioning exit strategy. But I wrote on this review checklist, I just wrote, adhere to my trading plan and stay off the computer.
Mm.
And I say that because excess time at a computer during market hours is not necessarily a beneficial thing. It can pose it can offer a threat, so to speak. to creep in and allow a fear-based emotional emotion to come in and creep in and negatively affect a potential trade, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
My thoughts are that the point of saying those two things is I feel that that would help me adhere to a sense of discipline, which is what's so critical in trading successfully.
Awesome. Thank you, Pat. All right. The next section of this, well, we've already had a lot of people sharing, so a lot of real examples already of this type of post-analysis. I think that we'll move to the live interactive prompt now. So I think let's all take 1 minute now, and I could set my timer here for 1 minute, and we'll have a silent reflection. So there's 3 questions that I want you to think about. So think about your last trade or one trade last week. It doesn't have to be the literal last trade, but a trade last week if you had a trade last week. And answer these mentally, or grab a pen and a piece of paper and jot this down. Why did I exit when I did? Question number 1, why did I exit when I did? Number 2, would I take the same trade again? Yes or no? And how was my self-talk during and after this trade? I'll give you 1 minute for this. So again, why did I exit when I did? Would I take the same trade again? And how was my self-talk during and after this trade? Got 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1. All righty. So how'd we do?
Is it okay?
Who would like to share? Well, what surfaced for you? Go ahead.
Is it okay if I go first? Because I kind of have to run after this. But and
Sure.
again, it's not. I'm kind of hanging on this spot trade only because, and it's not to. It's just kind of fresh in my mind. It's a strong. I have a lot of reflection on it. And so,
Okay.
why did I exit the trade? I think I might have misled you when I began to talk about that. I did basically take that at the same time as you did, same day and everything.
Okay.
From a clearly defined pivot point and so forth. But why did I exit the trade? That day, I think the market was down, and it was fear. I was fearful. It was an emotional based decision, and I closed the trade for a small percentage loss. Would I take the trade again? Yes, because it was a clearly defined pivot point. It was in hindsight here, it's an excellent setup. There's no reason not to take the trade. The self-talk at the conclusion of this trade was I felt like I lacked supportive self-talk. I find myself asking why. It was in hindsight, why did I close this trade? Because I entered and exited on the same day, and the the pricing action did nothing to violate necessarily a good reason to get out. So I found that I was asking myself why I didn't follow my plan accordingly.
Oh, very good. Thank you for sharing that with us, Pat. Um, I I would encourage the before you leave, one small thing that I would encourage is to check out your pre-market, pre-trade routine and see if there what kind of self-talk, if you have any kind of affirmations before you place trades, and maybe revisit those. And if you do, perhaps affirmations throughout the day, something that you could have just as an index card that you have sitting on your desk. I have a couple of these kinds of things. Perhaps something like that that can help serve as visual cues as reminders throughout the trade. But I know that you've got to run, so thank you.
Sure. I'm sorry I got to jump off, but thanks everybody for listening and let me participate. I appreciate it. I hope that you guys have a good rest of your weekend.
Thank you. You too. All right. Anybody else like to share? All right. I'll share if we've got nobody else. So the one that I did well was this trade here in CPRX. So to answer the question, why did I exit when I did? I actually exited right here on this day. For a little arrow right there. And the reason why I exited on that day was because of my danger signals rule. I actually wasn't like looking at this. At one point, I was thinking like, "Oh man, like, do I really want to be exiting here or not? It's so close to break even. It's so close to my stop. Should I?" And that, right? So, and when I say thinking, it's not where it's like I'm deep in thought on that. Like these are just like thoughts, chatter that pops into my head too, right? And so those are the kinds of things that we could jot down as well when we're thinking. It like thoughts aren't. It's not just reserved for deep analytical thinking. It's like whatever thoughts are popping in there. Sometimes it's deep analytical thinking. Sometimes it's those the mental monkeys, as I've heard people call them, right? So the mental monkeys were telling me like, "Oh, do you really want to follow your plan here? You're so close to break even. The 21 day has held for a long time." But then, well, why did I exit on that trade? Because I saw that there were 9 danger signals. Like, well, you know what? I am going to follow my plan, and my plan says that when you see 6 or more danger signals show up when you're this early in a trade and you haven't locked down any gains, that's time to exit and call it a day. So I exited there, and then the rest of the monkeys are chattering like, "Oh, you know, like it could just reverse right on you, and you'll feel like a fool." And everybody else in the group will be saying like, "Oh, why did you do that? Like, we could have made more money or whatever," like that, right? So all sorts of silly things that those monkeys can say, and then you know on the shoulder where the angel's sitting, like, "No, this is good process." Right? Because it's not about any one trade. It's about following process, and it's your next 100 trades. So what's going to lead us to profitability? Is it going to be making more or less on one trade, or is it going to be following your process consistently? Well, following process consistently said, okay, exit here, and that's what I did. Would I take this trade again? Yes, I would. The reason why is because it fit my plan. It's set up in my system, VCP. It broke out properly. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. Good group. One of the top contenders in its group. It checked off all the boxes, so all that stuff is there. And the self-talk part of it, yeah, even trading for, well, what, I think 25 years or something like that now, might be in the 26th year, I think. The talk is mixed still to this day. So it's not where those monkeys are necessarily off your back. It's learning how to deal with them. So those are some of my reflections from this exercise. Any other?
Yeah, so I have a
Yeah.
question, Mike. So it's kind of interesting, and maybe it's unique, kind of as, I don't know, for lack of a term, leader. But it's interesting to me that you're kind of concerned about what people will say. That at least that thought flashes through your head, like, oh, we got out too early, or we held on too long, or whatever. So, well, I don't have that thought as much.
Mhm.
It is interesting. I think it flashes through mine too. So, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, fear of judgment.
Yeah.
Fear of judgment. Yeah, it is something that I battled for most of my life. Something that I continue to battle to this day. Some days better than others, but it's putting in the reps, and it's one of the reasons why it's important for us to follow our plans. Is because we're building that muscle, and when we don't follow our plan, we weaken that muscle just a little bit. So I'd rather have a small loss in a trade and see it run without me, and continue to build that muscle that follows the plan, versus weakening that muscle and winning on this one trade. Because ultimately, what's going to lead to long-term profitability is that muscle of following the plan. All part of the bigger plan, the business plan, is the post-analysis component of it. So when do we tweak the bigger plan? When do we evolve? It's not in the middle of the trade. It's in the post-analysis. And that's where, if I say, well, would I take the same trade again? Answer is yes. All right. So now I'm able to move forward with that. So one of my mentors taught me this, and it stuck with me. You trade how you review. You trade how you review. So if your reviews are shallow, your process will stay shallow. If your reviews are sharp, that's when our edge can start to compound trade by trade. So here's my challenge for all of us. Pick one trade from this week and do a full reflection using the checklist that we went through earlier. And I'll post a document of some kind in the group chat, so that way you have it. But hopefully you guys were taking some notes during this. But I'll take that. I'll put it in the Discord. Let me ask you guys. Are you willing to do this? Are you willing to commit to posting one reflection this week in the Discord? I'll do it too. I'm not exempting myself.
Yeah, I could do that. Could you, when you post the Discord, could you also include the quote you just had there from your mentor? I didn't catch the full quote, but I really like that, Mike. about reviewing sharply or reviewing soft, or that quote, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, if you have a pen and paper, that sometimes when I write things down versus seeing it from somebody else, it cements it a little bit more. So if you want to
Sure.
write it down, the quote is this: you trade how you review. You trade how you review.
Okay.
And so the point of it is that if your reviews are shallow, your process stays shallow. If your reviews are sharp, like the whole thing that we've done here today, that's what helps to compound our edge.
Mike,
Yes, Al.
great session today. I really appreciate the time. I know you're doing a transcription, or maybe you're not, of the session.
Yep.
But if you are, is that going to be posted as well, so we can go back and get some of the key points? I took notes, I wrote things down, but I'm sure I missed stuff. I don't know if you're interested in posting it or not, or posting the checklist, whatever works.
Oh yeah, yes. If the actual full transcription, if that's helpful, sure, I could post the whole transcription for you.
Well, this is an excellent session. I think it's important to review. And I trade a little different than you guys. So, yeah, because I'm scalping during the day. So, my problem is I have multiple styles,
Right.
and one style is the intraday. I don't know if you're doing any intraday trading at all, but I've been really evaluating intraday trading, and if you are doing intraday trading, so we can sit down and talk about that a little bit more. I know at one point you were talking about how important mindset is during intraday trades.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Well, when things are moving that fast, and when we need to be that fast, our mindset can become even more important, and staying stable throughout, because it's more manual type of work. Well, when we're trading longer term or even swing trading, we're able to remove ourselves a little bit more from that and have OCO orders triggering and step aside and not have to look at charts in the middle of the day. But when we're trying to be very active intraday, placing multiple trades per day, all the how we're thinking, how we're feeling, our energy levels, all those things can start to come into play, and we could start to see things that might not even be there. So all that, everything that we spoke about today becomes even more important.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, Sal, later on, if you want to talk one-on-one, we certainly can, and we'll set that up.
Yes. Send me a DM. Let me know Let me know what times are best for you.
All right, cool.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else?
I think this has been a great session as well. Just what Sal shared. So really enjoying it. So thank you.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. I will see you next week. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Happy Father's Day to all the dads. And I will talk to you soon.
All right.
Sounds great. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Good
Bye.
session.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.